Hi guys, this is Ross Anderson. I'm one of our teaching pastors at Alpine Church. And I've noticed in the last few weeks that as this coronavirus has swept over the globe, that a lot of people are connecting the COVID-19 pandemic to the return of Jesus. This is one of the signs of the times showing that Jesus is coming back soon. And so I wanted to evaluate that today because that can make a lot of people feel anxious and fearful. And so let's think about, is this pandemic really a sign of the end times, the end of the world, the return of Jesus? And I'm going to share a few thoughts with you on that. And then I encourage you to talk about this with your family or talk about it with a friend later on today. There'll be some resources posted in the comments below in a few minutes that will give you some questions to discuss together on that. Now, to begin with, according to the Bible, Jesus is coming back again. We're so thankful for that. But the Bible describes how Jesus will return. He'll return in person, and it'll be visible for everyone. It'll be in a moment of glory and majesty. And when he comes back, he'll rule this world, and he'll set everything right. Everything that's wrong about the world will be set right one day. That's a biblical hope, and all Christians throughout history have believed that. But the thing is, nobody knows exactly when Jesus will return. And Jesus himself said that in Matthew chapter 24, verse 36. Let me find that verse here. He said, however, no one knows the day or hour when these things will happen, not even the angels in heaven or the Son himself, only the Father knows. And so Jesus said, look, there's just no way to know exactly when this is going to take place. And yet, in spite of that warning, people have been conjecturing about this for centuries, for decades, and historically people have been predicting the return of Jesus over and over and over again. Of course, historically they've been wrong over and over and over again. At the first millennium, when the clock turned from 999 to 1000 AD, there was a huge furor of speculation about this must be the return of Jesus. And then I've been a Christian for 40 years, and more than 40 years, and so I remember in the 70s people were saying, Jesus is coming back in the 70s. In the 80s, Jesus is coming back in the 80s. Well, it didn't happen. It didn't happen in the 90s. And so I think we should take a little bit of caution from looking at all the times people have been wrong when they've tried to connect the dots from current events and things going on in the world to the return of Jesus. Now, Jesus warned in Matthew 24 that life would be filled with trouble until he returns. And so let me take a look at that. In Matthew 24, this is a discourse that Jesus has, a conversation that he has with his followers, and it's kicked off in verse 3 when they said, tell us, when will all this happen? What sign will signal your return and the end of the world? Jesus told them, don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah. They will deceive many, and you will hear wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world, but all this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. Verse 9, then you will be arrested, persecuted, and killed. You'll be hated all over the world because you're my followers. And many will turn away from me and betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and will deceive many people. Sin will be rampant everywhere, and the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And the good news about the kingdom will be preached throughout the whole world so that all nations will hear it, and then the end will come. So Jesus says, look, there's a bunch of things that are going to happen. He says there's going to be wars and rumors of wars and nations fighting each other and famines and earthquakes and all kinds of things. And Luke chapter 21, when Jesus tells the same story there, it adds plagues, like pandemics, like disease. But he says these things have to happen, but the end won't follow immediately after that. He says that, there's a lot of things that are going to happen. He says, and then, only then, the end will come. So Jesus likens it to birth pains. When a woman is pregnant, she doesn't just think the baby's imminently going to come the first time she experiences a contraction. She doesn't run off to the hospital. But those contractions will become more frequent and more intense as the moment of birth arrives. Now, what he's saying there is that there's all kinds of things that characterize the natural course of things, of life in this world, until Jesus comes back again. So there's been pandemics before that are worse than the one that we're facing right now. Presumably there'll be more pandemics in the future. All of it before Jesus comes back again. So no, I don't think these are signs of the end times. I think these are signs of the times that we live in that might be leading up to the end times later. And yet, nevertheless, knowing that Jesus is coming back, that should change how we live. And so in Matthew chapter 24, in verse 42, later on, Jesus says, "So you too must keep watch, for you don't know what day your Lord is coming." And so it should change how we live. It doesn't mean that we should live in fear or that we should live in anxiety. It doesn't mean, I don't think the Bible says that we should live in a state of speculation either. So what does it mean to keep watch? Well, Jesus tells a story right after that illustrates what that means. In verse 45, he talks about a master who goes on a long journey and he leaves his servant in charge. Leaves him in charge of everything, the whole household and all the rest. And he says if that servant is faithful to what he's been given to do, he'll be rewarded. But he says some of the servants might be tempted to think, oh, my master's gone a long time. He's not coming back anytime soon. So I'll just do whatever I want to. I'll get drunk. I'll have parties. I'll mistreat the other servants. And he says, then when the master comes back unexpectedly and suddenly, then there'll be a day of reckoning. And that servant will be punished severely and actually cast out of the household. And so the point is, Jesus could be coming back very soon. We know he's coming back. It could be very soon. But this pandemic doesn't really tell us when. It doesn't really add anything to our understanding of the timeline or the chronology. The pandemic doesn't mean that Jesus is coming back sooner than we might have thought he was. But whether there's a global pandemic or not, whether there's earthquakes and famines or not, we should still be living in light of Jesus' return. That means we should be living for him. We should be living to obey him. We should be serving him well. We should be following his mandate and what he wants from us. We should be doing what he called us to do until he gets back again. So hope that helps you put this into perspective a little bit, and hope it encourages you how you're going to live as you face the days of uncertainty that lie ahead. Now, I'm done talking about that. I encourage you to talk about it as well with someone in your family or with a friend using the questions and the resources that'll be posted in the comments below. Thanks for watching today.